Rangers fans, welcome to Liberty Blue, the best Rangers podcast in town. I'm Andrew Chelney, alongside Nick Zararis. We scream about the Rangers so that you don't have to. This is episode 62, live on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube, and we're available wherever you get your podcasts as well. Nick, I was told that I was going to be put on the hot seat today, and that's pretty much all the information I have. So why don't you explain what we've got in store today?
So, yeah, I spent most of my day this morning just going through. We're at the real dry spell now of the news cycle where everybody who signed at the beginning of July, they got their direct deposit through on their signing bonus already. They're out at the lake. The insiders are just retweeting team links at this point. There's not really news.
They're at their cottages drinking margaritas.
We are all waiting for the next move, whether that's Erik Karlsson, whether that's somebody on the Jets, whether that's somebody on the Flames. We're all waiting for the next big salvo in this. But for what I gather and how quiet everything is right now, none of that's probably going to happen until the end of August when everybody realizes, oh, wait, we got to report to camp in 2 weeks. We should probably get this taken care of, as opposed to, getting ahead of it and then having the entire month of August and September to prepare for what your roster is going to look like after you make that move. But I digress. The NHL is not a creative league. These are not forward-thinking people. So I spent most of my morning trying to aggregate ideas, questions, topics, themes, whatever, from everywhere, from Twitter, from news places, from TikTok, from YouTube, just trying to come up with topical points of conversation that aren't just us repeating, Blake Wheeler's a decent hockey player, but I don't think he solves the Rangers' issues. The Rangers will go as far as Shesterkin can carry them. Adam Fox is very good. Peter Laviolette has a lot on his plate. That's the most succinct description I can give of the last 6 weeks of Rangers content we've done here. There's not a lot to talk about, and the league likes it that way. So the first question is topical of the idea of the offseason. Whose offseason do you like the most so far?
Ooh, that's a good question. There's a few teams that I like. I like what the Senators did with Tarasenko with the 1 year, the $5 million contract. I like that allegedly Tarasenko had a long-term deal with Ottawa, and then he said no to that, and then said yes to a 1 year deal. I don't really know what happened there. There's more to that story than we're being told, but I like what they did there, because here's the thing with that is the Senators now have a lot of flexibility in that position where if they're a playoff team, then that contract doesn't, strap them into a 4-year deal with Tarasenko, and they could potentially, add on to that and do all these things. But if they, let's say everybody's injured and they miss out, they can always trade him and get a good return package for a player that caliber if he stays healthy. So I like what they did there. The Avalanche have kind of confused me more than anything else with a lot of their signings. I like what they did with Duchesne, not with Duchesne. I like some of their decisions, but some of the other ones that they did, like with Ross Colton, they gave him a lot of money.
And Miles Wood.
They gave Miles Wood a lot. You know what they did? They gave Miles Wood the Barclay Goodrow contract.
Pretty much, yeah.
For no reason. Like, Miles Wood was, for context, Miles Wood was so bad in the Rangers series, they benched him.
Yes.
And then Colorado turned around and was like, hey, you wanna earn a bunch of money over 1 million years? Come through, because we can give it to you.
And do you want to live in Denver, which is a very nice place to live? Yes, I would. That sounds delightful. Please throw me a nice multi-year contract, Colorado Avalanche.
Yeah.
I will come, but please. My answer is very straightforward. I let the Stars getting Duchesne for what they got in that. That's only one move, but the Stars are already a pretty good team, and they added a bona fide second-line center who can play probably on the third line on that team or can move over to the wing, and it just gives them another tool in their toolbox. It's just a matter of how bad Ryan Suter is. That's really the only question I have for the Dallas Stars. Other than that, that's a really solid roster, and they added a guy who, if everything breaks right, can be a 30-goal, 60-point type of guy, which for what the money they're paying him, it's only like $3.5–4 million a season. That's a great number to get him at.
My biggest question is Ryan Suter, because their defense, I don't want to say hinges on him, but because of the amount that he plays on any given night, it is always a concern for me as to what their overall outlook looks like. And granted, saying that based off of one defenseman maybe is a little much, but because of how much Ryan Suter is trusted by the coaching staff to deliver 20 minutes or 20 plus minutes of solid defense when my mans can no longer skate. That's my only concern with them. And he's still getting paid a good amount of money. And that's really my only kind of question mark on the entire roster. Their forward group is really good. Their decor, for the most part, is really good. Obviously, they still have Jake Ottinger and friend of the show, Scott Wedgwood, in net as well. What are you going to do with Ryan Suter? Eventually, the coaching staff is going to reach a point where they realize that he can't play hockey anymore, and they're going to either play him in the bottom six role or sit him entirely. I don't know if that's ever going to happen with Dallas, but they got to do something with him because he makes too much money and he's not good enough to play top 4 minutes anymore.
Need more Essa Lindell, Dallas Stars, if you're listening. More Essa Lindell. Okay, question number 2. What team with a move remaining interests you the most? So that's really just Pittsburgh, Calgary, and Winnipeg. Of those 3 teams, which is the most interesting in your mind?
I really want to see what Calgary does. I really am interested to see, because I think we talked about this earlier on. The Flames right now are standing at a crossroads. Because essentially all of their top guys went out. So the question that I have is, which road is Calgary going to go down? Because if they trade all of their top guys and they don't really get enough in return, they are going down a long, long rebuild that is going to look really bad in the short term. Could maybe pan out long-term if they hit on a lot of their picks, et cetera, et cetera. The Flames could be in purgatory for a long time if these trades don't pan out. But on the other hand, if Craig Conroy turns around and gets a haul for some of his guys, and all of a sudden their cupboard is stacked with prospects and high picks, and maybe they retool for a year or two, and then they all of a sudden reappear with a brand new roster and they're ready to go, that's going to be really cool to watch. So I think from the standpoint of where can Calgary possibly go from here, that's really interesting, because Pittsburgh right now is just sitting and waiting for Erik Karlsson to finally, like that. Everyone's just waiting on Karlsson. For Winnipeg, they are just gonna sell Connor Hellebuyck and start the rebuild process now. Like, this is without Connor Hellebuyck, the Jets are just not going to win enough games as it stands to make the playoffs, or if they do make it far in the playoffs. So I'm kind of out on Winnipeg right now. But for me, Calgary is very interesting because they could either be incredible in 3 years or terrible for 10. I don't know.
It's very interesting. Calgary spent a lot of money last offseason. They got Mackenzie Weegar and Huberdeau back, gave both of them long-term extensions. They gave Kadri that long-term deal. And Rasmus Anderson is their only other marquee player who they have a little bit more team control over. But other than that, you talk about guys like Noah Hanifin, Elias Lindholm, Nikita Zadorov, the one Tanev brother. Both of their goalies are possibly available because Dustin Wolf has performed so strongly in the AHL, even though he hasn't really caught a foothold at the NHL level yet. I agree with you completely. Calgary can either really set themselves up to be ready to go in 2 years from now, or it's 5 years from now, or you end up like Buffalo or Columbus, where you made the playoffs last year, meaning 2 seasons ago now, because last season ended, but you made the playoffs 2 years ago and you won't make the playoffs again until 2029, 2030. That's a really tough sell. The Flames, I'd agree with you. This one is a quick answer for me. Who has the worst contract in the entire NHL?
I mean, if I want to keep it like Rangers centric, I'd say
the whole league. The whole league. Because I have someone specific in mind. That's my answer.
Okay, do me a favor, because I need to go to Cat Friendly for a second and take a look at this. How about you tell me yours, and then I'll do some research here.
Mark Edward Vlasic.
That's
he's still got 3 years left. He's 36 years old, and he's getting paid $7.5 million a year, and he hasn't been good in 4 or 5 years, but they signed him to an 8-year deal right before he started his physical decline. That contract is immovable. He basically has no value on the trade market, and the Sharks are just going to have to let him ride out the rest of that contract.
$7 million until 2026 for a 36-year-old who can literally not skate anymore. Like we make jokes about certain players not being able to skate and what have you, but Mark Edward Vlasic literally cannot play anymore.
He had an ankle surgery a couple of years ago and he lost all his mobility. That was it. And for a defenseman, it's one injury. We talk about PK Subban, who is out of the league now and is only like 33 years old, where if he ever learned how to skate better after his ankle injury, he'd probably still be in the league. But because he was so good before that injury, he just thought, I'll be as good as I was before he came back. And then very quickly realized, oh, I'm not fast anymore. And never adapted and was out of the league 2 years removed from a 50-point season. It's really crazy how quick it happens with one injury.
I would say a runner-up to that would maybe be Rasmus Ristolainen in Philadelphia. I mean,
that's a candidate. That's definitely a candidate.
His cap hit is a little bit more manageable at $5.1 million, but he's getting paid until 2027, $5.1 million to allegedly play hockey. I don't know. Like, he's so bad that Twitterella was like, I can't believe how bad this guy is defensively. It's like, yeah, bro, I don't. If only everybody on the planet besides you knew about it prior to this, oh man, like maybe you wouldn't have signed him for that kind of contract. But hey, they have him for a million more years. They will never move him unless they buy him out. Like, that contract is awful. I'm happy for Rasmus. He got his bag. His agent deserves all the credit in the world. But my God, man, he can't play hockey. He just can't.
No, I'd like to shout out Chuck Fletcher for doing the full Magic Johnson. I'm not going to be here after signing Ristolainen to a 5-year deal that everybody immediately said was a terrible idea, and then getting fired less than 12 months later. Truly a commendable performance in the I'm not going to be here Olympics. Truly special.
Yeah, it's like it truly takes somebody with the ultimate like I don't care attitude.
Yeah,
of just like you get the money. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna be out here anyway soon. Who cares? You get a contract. Everybody gets a contract. Like we could have gotten a contract, I guess, if we texted Chuck in time before he got fired. But yeah, like instead of like thinking about his long-term future as a general manager and all these things, he's like, I won't be. I'm here for a good time, not a long time.
Okay, this one is very straightforward. I know my answer. You can have any player in the NHL, not including McDavid. Their contract is attached to start a team with. Who are you taking?
That's a really tough answer because it all depends on how I can build my team. If I need defense, I'm either going for Fox or Makar. If I need
from scratch, you can take anybody from any team. You are doing an expansion franchise and EA Sports' NHL franchise. You can pluck anybody from any team to be your first pick. And this is the conversation. Do you want Fox or Makar, or do you want Tkachuk, Mitch Marner, Austin Matthews, Nathan McKinnon? Do you want a forward or do you want a defenseman? I think goaltender's not in the conversation.
Yeah, I agree. I think I would take Nathan McKinnon only because of his...
He's about to become the highest paid player in the league starting this upcoming season.
But also, he does things offensively that just nobody else does, besides McDavid. Like if we just take McDavid and put him up on a shelf and, leave him there for a minute and talk about everybody else, Nathan McKinnon is one of the best drivers of offense at any point in the game that the league, the history of the sport has ever seen. Nathan McKinnon is a one-of-one unicorn in what he does with the puck, without the puck. My man's is a menace anytime he's on the ice, and it has a skill set that, Connor McDavid, end of sentence, might have. Like, he's so good at what he does. He's also like not bad defensively either. Like which a lot of superstars that kind of don't do much defensively because they don't need to. But Nathan McKinnon can defend well when called upon as well. I love the way Nathan McKinnon plays, and if I had to start a franchise, I think I'd pick him first. If McDavid was not on the list.
So I will be taking Matthew Tkachuk because he's only making $9.5 million a year for the next 8 years. He's 25 years old. You are going to get all of his peak years. He had one of the great playoff runs of all time on a team that was very top six heavy, that was playing Eric and Mark Stahl a lot of minutes, that was playing Ratko Gudas a lot of minutes, all in front of Sergei Bobrovsky, who is the human house of cards on a tightrope. So what Matthew Tkachuk did was special. And at that number too, That's what the main driver, because otherwise I would take maybe a Marner. I would consider taking Adam Fox. But to get one of the 5 best forwards in the league for only $9.5 million per year for the next 8 years, that's just, you got to do it. That's really what it comes down to. And you get more flexibility. That's just more cap space. I mean, McKinnon's impact is a little greater because he plays slightly more minutes. He's a center, which matters a little bit more, slightly bigger role. But Tkachuk gives you 95% of that for $6 million less. $6 million less is a really good player in today's league.
I do want to take into consideration that the cap is supposedly going to go up after this season.
We have a question about that. Later on.
With that in mind, I think McKinnon will be more valuable than Tkachuk, given that the cap goes up by more than 8 pennies. But if the cap remains the same, I completely agree with you. As it stands right now, with the theory that, hey, the cap is actually going to move up now after 8,000 years of a lot of conversations and nothing actually being done about it, Nathan McKinnon is my answer.
Okay. If I put you in charge of the NHLPA, what would you want to convey to the membership that they need to care about more? Because to me, it's just an understanding that they're all on the same side. Because the way the PA has operated for the last couple of cycles, it's very clear that the priorities have been the most valuable players, the guys who get paid the most money. Those have been the guys who have been looked out for the most. The guys who get screwed are the young guys, man. We talk about this all the time. You don't get to become an unrestricted free agent entirely until you're 27 years old or you've played 8 years in the league. You could be 3 times out of the league. The average NHL career is 3.5 seasons. You might never even sniff the type of money that guys on your team are making because the PA hasn't done enough to protect those bottom of the roster guys.
I agree. Yeah, I think the PA just needs to do a better job of making sure every player is covered and every player gets good treatment, as opposed to, hey, McDavid, I love. Can you sign this for me? Draisaitl, please take it. Can we take a selfie? I want the PA to realize that, as you said, an NHL team is never composed of 18 McDavids. You need the grinders and the hashtag grit, hashtag sandpaper, hashtag locker room guys, in the bottom 6, and you need these. You need every kind of player to even have the chance of winning a Stanley Cup. It's not 18 McDavids on the same team. We're in this kind of salary cap era of that's simply impossible. That's never going to happen in this kind of NHL. You need everybody on the same page and together and working together towards a common goal. And if a team can do that, why can't the PA do that? That's kind of my issue is hey, if you're in charge of the PA, you are in charge of every player in the league. It shouldn't be it's not the NHL some players association. It is the NHL Players Association. Every player should get the same treatment from the PA. Unfortunately, that's not the case.
What player or team would you like a feature-length movie about? Not a documentary, like a drama. Any team or player. If you want to do The Tortured Soul, if you want to do something serious, you got a lot of options. There's a few in my mind that I think would be very interesting for this.
Is it too late to say Ilya Bryzgalov? That's the first thing.
Bryzgalov movie?
I would love Ilya Bryzgalov as an astronaut. Dude, that would make me so happy if we can get a Bryzgalov astronaut movie. I know he's been out of the league for a while, but I'm sure he's the same person that he was when he was doing all these hits with the Flyers. So I personally, the movie writes itself. Just have him meets bears in space. I don't know. Just make it something crazy and make a lot of money out of it.
Okay, so my idea, I want to do a feature-length movie about the Blue Jackets team that beat the Lightning in the first round, when the Lightning were the greatest regular season team ever to that point, because everybody on that Blue Jackets team left. Duchesne, Panarin, Bob all left that offseason, and that team was entirely playing for, okay, we'll go as far as we can go, and they just beat the best team ever to that point in the history of the NHL. I think that would make for a great opportunity. Whoever plays Tortorella, you've got the easiest Academy Award nomination of your entire life. All you have to do is scream and have a forehead vein bulge out. Easiest Oscar nomination of anyone's life to play John Tortorella in a movie.
I would watch that movie. I don't watch movies. Now, you know this, everybody, I'm not a movie person. I would watch the hell out of that movie. I would watch it so many times. Whatever box office number that you'd see after the weekend, like half of it would be me just watching the movie over and over again. Like I would love that. But my question to you is, who should play John Tortorella?
Well, the easy answer, he's a little too old to be John Tortorella, but I would have said Brian Cox from Succession, who just yells "fuck off" in every scene, which is like authentic to what John Tortorella does. I typecast Brian Cox as every angry old man in every movie ever. To be creative, to play Tortorella, I'm trying.
What about John Hamm?
John Hamm is too handsome. That's part of the problem. John Tortorella, part of the
was not the answer I was expecting, Eddie.
John Hamm is too conventionally handsome. Part of what makes John Tortorella work as a leader of men is that, like, the rugged machismo of, like, yeah, he's 58 years old, but if someone pisses him off, he really might swing at them. I can't see John Hamm doing that. Like, I
watched Mad Men. I watched enough Mad Men to where I can see John Hamm swinging.
That's fair. That's a reasonable answer. Okay. What player made the biggest leap in your eyes this past season? Who impressed you that you were not expecting to be as good as they were?
Ooh, I'm gonna say, like, this might be a little bit of an interesting answer, but I might have to say Philip Gustafson.
That's a good answer.
My man just came out of nowhere and dominated.
Yeah.
For Minnesota in net. I mean, I didn't have him on my bingo card of biggest surprises in 2023, and yet he showed up and surprised the hell out of me. He was so good, and he got that contract extension earlier today. And he's a guy that, like, just showed up and he just played really well. And I was like, whomst? Where did he come from? Like, because listen, I watch a lot of NHL. I don't have time to know every prospect of every team and all these. Like, I wait until the NHL, or I rely on somebody who does watch a lot of prospects tell me about them, because I simply don't have enough time in the day to know everybody's prospects and how they're playing. So when Philip Gustafson arrived to the Wild, I'm like, okay, I mean, let's see how he played. Let's see how he plays, and then he just showed up and won pretty much every game that he played. So I'm very, very impressed by the way he's played.
I'm going to go with somebody who I was already high on, but they got to a higher level, and that's Rupe Hintz of the Dallas Stars. He was already a pretty good player. Like, underlying everything was there for him to pop. And he was outstanding last year playing with Pavelski and Jason Robertson. Sure, it helps having great line mates. Everybody would like to have, the best first line in hockey. That makes it easier to play hockey generally, was when you have better players. But he was outstanding this year, drove possession, was a great facilitator for two guys in Pavelski and Robertson, who both had stellar seasons. I mean, Pavelski's 100 years old, and Jason Robertson broke the 40
and is still
goal
putting
mark.
up 100 points also. My man's is getting near walking stick age, and he's still skating circles around half the league. It's very impressive.
Joe Pavelski, that's a good idea for him. Joe Pavelski. Then again, that'd be too torturous. People would be like, "You're making this up. The Sharks didn't lose this many playoff series." Oh, yes, they did. Open hockey reference.
They sure. It would be a good movie for the Vegas inaugural season.
That's a good idea.
Getting to the finals like that, when with a team of ragtag guys that quote unquote nobody wanted, like that angle could be good for like a Disney movie. That's a good Disney movie right there.
I was gonna say the problem with that is it would be too kind of Mighty Ducksy, which kind of
sure.
In my mind, I need a hockey movie to be a little gritty, a little ugly. When, like, I'm not complaining. The Mighty Ducks, it's good. It's a good kids movie, but I need a little something extra from my movies.
The thing about the Mighty Ducks movies, though, is that they're great for our generation. The next generation needs a Mighty Ducks movie. So why not make this their Mighty Ducks?
It's not a bad idea. Okay.
Warner Brothers. I mean, listen, we are just giving you free ideas. Like, you can make a whole lot of money out of us.
Okay. What's a hole in your hockey resume you need to improve? You as a person, whether you take that as a fan question or a content person question, what's something you feel like you should be better about?
I think watching more teams.
Okay.
I think because I try to watch as many. Listen, like I work in basketball, like I watch a lot of hockey. Like I try to watch every team as much as I can. But I do I do tend to not watch a lot of the miserable teams. I don't
Yes.
watch a lot of Columbus. I don't watch a lot of Arizona, mainly because their arena is a joke and it is really embarrassing for me as a hockey fan to watch them play in some college arena. I kind of don't want to do that, even though I love the way Clayton Keller plays the game of hockey. I need to watch more teams, and I think like as a fan, I kind of need to just be like, okay, things are just happening. Because as at a certain point, like me yelling at the TV during I don't know a Ducks Flyers game, that like, oh, what is Ristolainen doing? Where is he going? Like at a certain point, I need to relax a little bit.
All right, we're gonna get some help for you, Andrew. That's a little concerning. Like most of the time when I have hockey on, I have the ESPN quad box on, and I have the Ranger game on a separate TV, and I'll yell at the Rangers TV. But when I'm looking at the other TV, my eyes are just darting back and forth like a dog watching a laser pointer because I'm trying to keep track of 4 games at once. I cannot find the energy to care about the Flyers.
I mean, listen, I'm not like actually like yelling at the TV, but like in my head, I'm going like, where
is he going?
Where is he going? I need to know because he's not like the puck is over there. I don't know where he's going. Is he going on a walk, a stroll? Somebody give this guy a map because my man's is lost. But I'm not actually getting heated about it. But I think internally I get maybe a little bit more animated than I should.
My answer is I would like to know more about prospects, but I cannot find myself to care about other leagues.
Sure.
I will watch like 3 college hockey games all year. Usually 1 or 2 of them are in person, and that's the justification for it. But I'm not watching college hockey. I'm not watching the CHL, the QMJHL. I am not waking up in the middle of the night to watch the Swedish league, the Czech league, the Swiss league.
Sure.
I'm asleep. Yeah. Hockey stops at when the last West Coast game ends, whether it's the Kraken, the Kings, the Ducks, the Sharks, the Coyotes, whomstever. When that's over, I'm not watching other leagues. And I understand the people who care about that because I get it. It's a corner. It's a space you can become authoritative in just with watching. And I respect the discipline to do that. But even when I'm not watching, like if the Rangers aren't on, I'm still going to watch 1 other or 2 other games.
Sure.
And I might go see what's on over in the association too. I cannot find myself the energy to care about these smaller leagues. And yeah, that's a whole, but at the same time, I'd rather watch professional hockey.
There's only first of all, there's only so many hours in the day. There's only so much you can watch, and it's one thing like I could in theory have 90 games on my screen and try to watch all of them. The thing about it,
your ADHD is not aggressive enough.
Yeah, like I just haven't gotten pucks deep enough, I guess. But it's just like you watch certain games at a certain time. And you try to absorb as much of that game as you can. If you watch too many things at once, you'll learn nothing about any of them. Like, and you, if a lot of prospect guys, if you talk to them, whether it be NHL, NBA, or most other sports, they don't watch a lot of the pro scene. Like they really won't watch the NHL or the NBA or whatever. Like they will stick to knowing everything that there is about these prospects, and that when in the 6th round that one guy goes, this prospect guy stands up and he's like, I know things about this guy. Like that's their role. They won't watch Rangers Flyers. They won't watch Warriors Lakers. Like they are 100% all in, they are like 95% into learning about prospects and watching all these games at 4 a.m, and et cetera. So you have to pick one. You can't it's not feasible to be like, I'm going to be an expert on the NHL, an expert on the Rangers, also an expert in the NBA, also an expert on like this guy who in the 5th round who nobody knows anything about. Like you got to pick a lane here.
I will say, I do a pretty damn good job of doing hockey, football, baseball, and a little bit of soccer, and a little bit of basketball, and a little bit of MMA, and a little bit of NASCAR, and a little bit of F1. They all don't overlap with each other, which is why it works. I cannot do multiple hockey leagues at once. That is the problem. Okay, this is a quick one. Is the NHL season too long? Yes.
Really? Well,
Yes,
the
82
NHL
games is way too many.
The NHL is never going to cut it down, and
you're not wrong. I completely agree with you. I just think there's way too many games. I think the season is way too long. These guys get 3 months if they make the Cup final. That's not a long enough offseason.
Well, you could be like the NFL and have a 6-month offseason.
I think that would make the quality of play better if everybody played fewer games. I really do. If we went down to 72, 10 games is a haircut for the rich people, and I think the players would get more out of it than we get out of those 10 games. I think that's really what it comes down to for me.
In a vacuum, it makes sense. The problem with shortening the season is that everybody gets paid less. The cap goes down because there's not, you generate a lot of revenue from those extra games, whether it be TVs, ads, popcorn, seats, etc.
Yeah.
You generate a lot of revenue. So if you were to cut down the season, everybody's paycheck decreases. I like the owners, they make a bajillion dollars anyway, so it doesn't matter. But like the players will get less.
Yes.
The equipment staff get less. Everybody gets less because there's less money being generated by the league. So would play get better as a result? I don't really know. We don't really have a benchmark for that. So I don't it's tough for me to argue one side or the other on that particular thing, but everybody will just get less money, which is always an issue.
Okay. This is a quick one. If you had to replace the Rangers goal song with a real song, what would you pick as said song?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot. Like I'm trying to think about what could be good. I mean, as a metal fan, I would love to hear like Angel of Death, or something crazy. The NHL would never approve that, so all good. But let me scroll through my library for a second, and I'm gonna let you answer this one.
So there's a few obvious ones. Like I am always going to say, when you give me the opportunity, I've got ideas for like all 32 teams. Like sidebar, why are the Winnipeg Jets not using the theme from Top Gun? Like, what are we doing here?
I like that.
Danger Zone for the Jets is absolutely perfect, but for the Rangers, there's two schools of thought. You either stick with like the corny classic rock thing, or you do something a little more modern. I like songs that have a little bit more. I like when the goal song is unique to the team, the region, the city. Like the Wild using the Prince song, Let's Go Crazy. That's perfect. That's exactly what the goal song needs to be. So it's got to be a song about New York. The issue is all of the good songs about New York are either way too overplayed, they don't fit the idea, or it would work, but the audience that is going to be caring about the game is not going to work. Because you give me like the bridge of Nas's New York State of Mind after a goal, that in my mind works. Give me that instrumental, just a little bit more aggressive. I have no beef with the Rangers goal song. I love the Rangers goal song, but just for the purposes, because I remember a few years ago, I want to say it was Brian Woj who tried to start like the Uptown Girl should be the goal song, and I'm like, that doesn't fit the vibe.
No, I mean, okay, if you want a good song that is still kind of tied to New York, there's a song by Spice called I Don't Want to Die in New York, which like is kind of like a rock, kind of like upbeat, like a good track and a good, if you haven't heard it, it's a great track, you should go listen to it. But like it's a good kind of track that you could potentially play after a goal that is New York themed. But like it's really tough because a lot of, as you said, a lot of the New York songs are just cliche at this point. No one wants to
hear. We also
like
live here.
Empire State, yeah, you're right. Like Empire State of Mind would be cliche. Like any Billy Joel song would be cliche. There's no, like a Frank Sinatra song would be cliche and also not fit the vibe either. Like it's tough because if somebody were to come out with a new song that is about New York, maybe if it fits the vibe, we could have a conversation about it. But it's tough picking a song for the Rangers when every song about New York has been overplayed to death, and we've heard it 7,000,000 whatever times, and let's not pick those same songs for the goal song. So I mean, it's tough, especially in a market such as New York, where you gotta have a range, like a New York song, but all the ones that we currently have are too old and play 8,000 times on New York radio every day. Please, somebody make a new one.
If you've got a good idea, let us know. I just tweeted that from. If you got a good idea for a Rangers goal song, let us know. Okay, this one I only want your answer, no explanation. Okay. The next 5 teams to win the next 5 Stanley Cups. I'm holding up my fingers so you can keep track. For 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay. I'm gonna say Dallas.
Okay.
Colorado. Carolina. New Jersey, and I don't know. Let me just throw in some wild card team that like people aren't considering right now. I'll just say LA for the. They have a lot of good pieces, so maybe they get some stuff done. But I think Minnesota.
No explanation. No explanation.
Maybe Minnesota as well. Maybe.
Okay. I asked you this because like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was out at a bar at like 3 a.m. and I wanted to go home very badly, but my friends were all still very much enjoying the vibe. So I tweeted with no context, the next 5 teams to win the Stanley Cup are going to be Dallas, Carolina, New Jersey, Colorado, and I want to say I said the Toronto, but I don't recall what it was because it was 3 a.m. when I tweeted it. But
not Toronto anymore. Not with what Brad's doing over there. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, no, it's not great. Okay. Who will be the next Ranger to get their number retired?
Adam Fox. Easy.
Okay, so you think that means no Zibanejad, no Kreider, because those guys are a lot older than he is.
I don't think Zibanejad is going to get retired soon. If he does, it'll be down the line.
Okay.
Kreider might get his number soon after he retires, because Kreider's just been here for his entire career, and they could they have the longer highlight package they can make from that of getting, because he's also a hometown kid, right? Like he got drafted here, spent his career here, et cetera, et cetera. Like they can really draw this out and really create this narrative of like the guy who was drafted here, he played his career here, and he had all these great moments. And I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it, but from the narrative perspective, I would see Kreider getting it before Zibanejad. Adam Fox is just the biggest name that popped up into me, just because it's Adam Fox, and he will. I mean, if he keeps playing, which hopefully he plays for a very long time and never leaves. But like, if he continues to play the way he's been playing and he stays with the Rangers for for a long while, my man's is first in line. Maybe Kreider gets it before him, but my man's is first. Like, as soon as he retires, it's going up there. Same with Shesterkin, really.
I think in order of likelihood, I think Fox, Kreider, Zibanejad, and then I think Shesterkin, depending how long he plays, whatever, have a real argument. I also think teams just retire too many numbers. That was part of the reason I have this question in here, is just there are really good players, but you will only retire the numbers of the best guys you have. And I think some teams are a little too liberal with that.
Yeah, I agree, but the counter argument to that is teams get good players throughout their careers, and good players, I would have to, like, if you're retiring somebody's number, that they stayed in that organization for a while. So yeah, there's some arguments to be had that some teams maybe liberally retire players' jerseys a little bit too much, but overall, like 98% of them deserve to be up there. Yeah. So it makes sense.
Okay. Who is a player you have ridden their stock price all the way down to zero with? Somebody you thought was going to be really good, but stunk. That you wore it all the way to the end. You never jumped ship. You always kept waiting for them to turn it around, and they just were not a good hockey player.
Oh man, I need you to answer first, because I'm going to think about this for a second.
There's a few answers I have. I thought Neil Pionk was going to be really good. And like, his stock price isn't zero, so that's probably not a great answer. I definitely had the Emerson Edom phase everybody else did when they first traded for him, where I complained about Vigneault's unwillingness to even just play him,
Yeah.
let alone play him on the fourth line. You could do, I mean,
at the time I liked Oscar Lindbergh.
I rode my Oscar Lindbergh stock into the ground. That was my gamer tag on Xbox for a while, was Oscar Lindbergh, because I would always change it from one obscure player to another, and now, what is my game? Oh, my gamer tag now is still Brendan Lemieux, because I was too lazy to change it after the Rangers traded for him.
You might, well, if
they also changed the rules for gamer tags. Like, they can only be 12 letters now instead of 15. So it eliminates a lot of the candidates for what I could make my gamer tag. I'll open up Baseball Reference. I'll get creative. Okay. What NHL conspiracy theory do you wholeheartedly believe in?
Oh, I know a lot of people like to believe
Gary rigged the draft for Pittsburgh. Gary rigged the draft for Pittsburgh. 100%.
That Gary Bettman gave the Penguins Sidney Crosby.
It's the Patrick Ewing draft. It's the Patrick Ewing draft. Where did Gary learn it? Gary was at the association.
Gary learned from David Stern. I just don't know. I mean, but the thing about that too is, like, what other big conspiracies are there in the league? I don't even know. Maybe I'm just blanking, but like that's the big one, that Gary rigged the draft for the Penguins to get Sidney Crosby. But like, I don't think there was a conspiracy about the Oilers getting McDavid. I don't think, like, I don't know too much about that. Maybe that's a conspiracy too. I'm just not in Buffalo, so I don't really know the answer to that. But maybe I'm just blanking on it, Nick. Like, I don't know.
No, I just wanted to make fun of the Penguins for a second, to be honest with you. That's the reason the question was on the list.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean,
every time somebody tweets something positively about the Penguins, I just want to quote tweet it with the ESPN news article: Kansas City Penguins to relocate to Kansas City, more than likely. Every time I see a Penguins fan that's moderately happy, I just want to be like, you shouldn't exist. You wouldn't exist if it weren't for Sidney Crosby.
You know, I admire your uncanny skill of just throw. It's like, I only asked this to make fun of the Penguins. Like, I thought this was a real question. Like,
I have an agenda to push too.
Yeah,
like
no,
yeah.
No, you're right. You're right.
Are you pro or anti-draft? Do you think professional sports league should have drafts at all, or do you think every player should be able to go to whatever team?
Pro. I like bad teams getting good players. Because if you don't have drafts, then bad teams will remain bad and good teams will remain good. And most of the league, for better or for worse, want to go to an original six team. They want to go to one of these big time cities. Like, they want to go, like, the NHL is a little bit different than other leagues, but like, if given the choice, maybe Connor Bedard would go to Chicago. Maybe he'd stay there. But a lot of other teams, like, if you're an 18-year-old and you see what Arizona's doing in their ridiculous arena, would you want to go to Arizona? Like, the answer is probably going to be a no. So it's a great way for small markets and for struggling teams to fill up the cupboard. I understand the counter arguments to why the draft is maybe a bad idea and all these things, but overall, it's really good for parity, and it's really good for struggling teams and small markets to have a say in the fight.
I agree with you. I think at some level you need to ensure that your worst teams have an opportunity to get better, even if it's not maybe the most fair thing to your good teams. But the NHL has never been fair to the good teams, which is why the NHL is structured the way it is, because Gary has to protect the 8 owners who don't make enough money. So flowing off of that, do you think 32 is too many teams for today's NHL?
No, I know. And
do you think there's enough talent for all 32?
Well, yeah, I think so. I think we've reached a point now where there's at least some talent on every team. There might not be as much talent on some teams as other teams, but that's why some teams are bad and some teams are good. Like, there might not be 6 great players on every team, but there's enough talent at this stage of hockey where I don't think the NHL should cut the number of teams. I think that wouldn't make a whole lot of sense right now.
Okay. I've always been of the opinion there are too many teams in every sport, because there are just some teams that have no chance every single year before the season even starts. So that's the counter argument. If there were 24 teams as opposed to 32, you'd have 24 teams that are significantly better, because the talent of those 8 teams would be
Sure.
dispersed across the other
You'd also
24.
get less revenue.
You would.
A
You would.
lot
No,
less
you
revenue.
definitely would. That's why the MLS is so
Right.
aggressively expanded in the last
Right.
5 years, is there's more revenue to be made.
Sure.
Okay. If I gave you Truth Serum and Gary Bettman, and you can ask him one question, what is the question you want to ask Gary Bettman? And he has to tell you the honest truth.
What did you find in the Kyle Beach situation?
Yeah.
Because there's so much about that debacle that we don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of it was, to my understanding, we're just gonna sweep as much as we can under the rug. We're gonna share publicly some things to make people at bay and not overly upset. But most of the things we're just gonna keep privately, and what we've privately found and and talked to and all these things. I want to know what really happened. I want to know what the NHL found, who was the most at fault. I want names. I want the actual full story. Like, I know I forget the reporter, his first name. I think it's Kyle Westhead, right? That's his name.
Rick Westhead.
Rick, yeah. Rick Westhead did a phenomenal job, an absolute phenomenal job of getting to the bottom of this and really digging deep into the story and helping Kyle Beach and all these and all these things. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of things that Gary Bettman has hid from everybody in regards to the nitty-gritty details. I want to know, because it is better for the sport if everybody knew what actually happened. That way, it wouldn't happen again. And two, everybody that either didn't help or didn't care to help or made the situation worse would be out of the sport. Yeah. It would benefit everybody involved, and I wish Bettman was more upfront about what he found.
Okay.
What about you? I need your.
Mine was I just want Gary on the record about CTE. That's all.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's my single most begrudging issue with the NHL right now. Is like, even the NFL has been like, yeah, CTE is real. They paid out that settlement, not nearly as much as they should have, to guys who aren't playing anymore. But it is embarrassing that Gary can't just. Gary is too invested in his bosses, and it's why he's an effective commissioner, but why everybody hates his guts, because he's the punching bag for them, because the owners don't care. To the owners, that's okay. How much more do we have to pay? As opposed to, damn, maybe we should change our game, which is really what that argument comes down to. I mean, Ken Dryden is one of the single most accomplished people in the history of the sport. And even he is at the point where I think everything that's contact to the head should be a penalty. And those are Ken Dryden's words. We need to protect the guys playing the game, because they don't know. The 24-year-old who has always been the best hockey player on every team they've ever been on their entire life, they don't know what it's like to just be another guy. And when you get to these places where it's amazing I'm here. How do I stay here? I'll do anything they tell me to stay here. I'll play through this. I'll play through that. I just don't want to disappoint my team. I don't want to disappoint my teammates. And we've gotten to a point now where it is purely anti-intellectual, the arguments you get against it at this point. We know if the NFL does, the NHL does. The hits in the NHL are often more violent than the NFL, even though hockey players are a lot smaller than football players. I think the Kyle Beach stuff, the Team Canada, the Hockey Canada stuff, we're all waiting the news results about from last summer. We were talking about that at the end of August last year, and we are July of the following year. And the NHL said at the beginning of June, yeah, we'll be ready to publish something soon. And it's been, 8 weeks. Tomorrow's August 1st. And the NHL said, hey, we're going to announce the results of this report 8 weeks ago at this point. And nothing.
There's clearly more to that story than they're willing to put on. Because
100%.
If the story was done, if their report and their findings were finished, I would have to imagine that, after talking to lawyers and and proofreading the washed out story that they were going to put out, that it would have already been done. Clearly, they put out that statement that, hey, we're going to be putting this out soon, with the idea that this is about to be wrapped up and this, like, we're about to move on from this. Something happened, had to have, from that being said to now, because there's no other logical conclusion to them saying that, hey, we're about to put this out, and then not doing anything for 2 months. Something had to have, new information, something had to have come to light. Otherwise, this doesn't make any sense.
Who's the most random Ranger you can think of right now?
Freddie Sjustrom.
That's a good one. I haven't heard that name in God knows how long. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. What about you?
Oh, I was gonna do Chris Higgins. I don't know why Chris Higgins was on my mind. I vaguely remember trading him for someone really good in like NHL like 08 or 09. I want to say I traded him and like a bunch of draft picks to get like Jamie Langenbrunner from the Devils because I just needed a power forward. Way I like to spam it on the GameCube. Okay, we've got 3 questions and we've got 9 minutes to go. So
sure,
3 minutes a question.
All right.
We kill it under an hour. Okay.
Yeah.
Who is a player you dedicate way too much brain power to caring about? In
a good way or a bad way?
It doesn't matter.
I guess Barclay Goodrow.
Okay.
Because like at least Jacob Trouba, I had to talk about that. Well, I guess also by proxy Pavel Buchnevich.
That's what I assumed your answer was going to be when I wrote that question down in my notes.
What a great player. The Rangers could really use somebody like that.
Hey man, they'd be paying us the big bucks if we knew that Pavel Buchnevich was good at hockey. That's what I say.
Yeah,
the guys in charge, they know exactly what they're doing. There were no market inefficiencies ever.
No, that'd be too easy.
Yeah. What is the biggest sliding doors moment in recent Rangers history?
Elaborate on that.
So sliding doors as a theory is when one door opens, one door closes. So a binary decision, one or the other.
I believe I've lost Nick, but I understand what he's saying. So for my answer would probably be right now, I think the signing of the Chris Kreider contract, the extension. Before, obviously, we knew that he would score 1 million goals the season after that and be really great. Because the idea at the time was the Rangers were going to trade everybody. And Kreider would be one of those guys, especially because his contract was up. And yet, despite everybody being traded, Kreider stayed. And they gave him the extension. So that was a very odd decision at the time, because you thought that, like, hey, everybody was getting traded. Kreider's deal was about to end. He's gonna get out. He's gonna be out the door too, but he wasn't. He was re-signed, and then he scored 1 million goals the following season with his, I think it was 52, with just by deflecting every shot known to man into the net because he was so good at what he was doing. But I like. It's interesting as a concept to think about what the Rangers could have looked like had they have also traded Chris Kreider away.
He had that's not correct. Oh, okay. I was going to say I pulled that up, and that was the playoff goals and the regular season goals. That's why it didn't look right. Okay, my answer is very straightforward. What if they hired someone that was not Gerard Gallant, who did not get as lucky? Because realistically, if the Rangers hired, Rick Tocchet, what's the difference? Would they have been as aggressive as they were after that last season? Would they have made the playoffs that last season? Because Chris Drury only interviewed Rick Tocchet and Gerard Gallant. Those were the 2 guys he talked to. He picked Gallant. I'd really love to know what was the alternative. What would that team have looked like? Because I think it probably wouldn't have gotten as lucky, because Rick Tocchet's even more conservative in terms of offense than Gerard Gallant. And what that would have done to the team, they won all those 1-goal games. They had their goalie win the Vezina. Where's the alternative? And I think that's a little more. I agree with you. I think you have the best answer. What if they trade Kreider instead? Because realistically, I think that would have been the better decision because they're kind of caught at the in between they're at right now because they didn't choose to do that.
Yeah, there's a lot of theory crafting to this answer because
Exactly.
I obviously will never know, but Chris Kreider is still a really good Ranger, and that's another angle to this argument of okay, well, some could argue that it was a really good thing that they kept him, one because he had that really great year last year prior to this season, and when he wants to contribute offensively, my man's is still a massive power forward at heart who can dominate anybody. Who's I mean, we all saw the video of him jumping out of the pool. Like he has incredible strength and can do a lot of things that he doesn't do for some reason, but like he has the ability to. That's definitely one of the toughest what ifs, I guess, of recent Rangers history.
Okay, we got 2 minutes to go and 2 questions to go, so we're in good shape. What is the difference between a generational player and a generational talent?
I think a generational player is somebody that excels at their position. A generational talent is someone who excels at everything. Like a Patrice Bergeron is a generational talent because of the way that he has absolutely dominated the two-way game his entire career. My man's could have won the Selke every single season. He was that good. I can't name any other forward of his caliber in this through that generation of hockey players that could rival that kind of consistency.
See, this is where we differ. This is an interesting idea because I saw people discussing this over the weekend and I put my 2 cents in. I think a generational talent, it's undeniable. It is flashy. It is, no matter what they do, it always works. It's that sixth sense where when you're at the game in person, you can see how much faster they are at deciding everything than everybody else. I think there are, by definition, fewer generational talents than generational players. I think that's the foundational argument of that. And I think what's interesting and why I disagree, you said Bergeron, and I think of Bergeron as a generational player, not talent, because I don't think of him as overly flashy, clearly the best guy on the ice at all times. I think what made Bergeron great was a work ethic, a determination, the kind of stuff that it's valuable as hell. That's what you want. If you have a generational talent with that type of mindset, they're going to be one of the best players ever. Bergeron's really good. I don't think Bergeron was ever the best player in the league at his position. It's a product of the era he played in. I think Sid, I think Ovi, and I think McDavid. I think those are the 3 generational talents of the last 23 years.
Yeah, I'm still arguing for Bergeron because of what he did his entire career. He was the best two-way player
completely
for 2 decades. There is no other player in those 20 years that paralleled or rivaled that kind of level. None. That's why, Bergeron might not be the flashiest or what have you,
sure.
But at what he did, there is nobody in the current generation that rivaled that kind of success. So that's why he, to me, is generational. Some guys are the best scorers of the era, the best passers, the best defenders. My man's is the best two-way player the sport maybe has ever seen.
Okay, that's interesting. That is really interesting, and why I brought it up. I think that's a good topic that we can revisit down the road. This is the final question. We're probably going over an hour because we're at 58 minutes right now. What is something that you think people in the hockey community are pretending to like?
Can I say grit?
I was going to say alternate jerseys because I think
love alternate jerseys. No, I love me some the reverse retros, the alternates. Give me more of those. Some of those are really bad. Don't get me wrong. Some of these are just very stinky and they don't deserve to be worn by NHL players. A lot of them are very cool designs, and I love seeing them. I want more give me 9 alternate jerseys a year. I don't care. Give me all of them, and I will buy maybe one of them, the best one that I will rock for 30 years. I want as many as as we can get our hands on. I love it when designers get creative. Like it's hard when you're designing a jersey for, let's say, the Red Wings, where they have their 2 colors and their logo. Have fun. Like those are teams like that are difficult to design jerseys for, but a lot of other jerseys are really, really cool. The Kachinas are some of my favorites out there, and the purple ones that they released, the alternates this past season, I want one so bad. They look so good, so cool. Give me all the alternate jerseys you can throw at me.
See, that is one half of my brain. I have an enormous jersey collection. I have way too many. I realistically should liquidize my jersey collection.
I'll have some of them if you're giving them away.
I'm not giving any of them away.
I'll take them.
There are too many good ones in here. But my idea is very straightforward. The regular home and away jerseys are $230 each. Do we really need a third jersey that is $230 or a fourth jersey for some of the teams out there that have a third alternate and a reverse retro? Can we either lower the price of jerseys generally, so I'm more receptive to multiple, or can we just say, hey, we've had this design forever. They made this jersey 100 years ago with somebody with a pen and paper, scribbling on a piece of paper. Maybe we retire some of these designs so we're not gouging people every time a team is like, well, we need an extra couple $100,000 million in the budget. What can we do? Third or fourth jerseys, like the Islanders finally agreeing to do a reverse retro because they had, they didn't make the playoffs last year.
And it was the same jersey.
It was. And I like the Islanders reverse retro.
Yeah.
And frankly, no. The original is better than the retro. The original has more teal. The entire point of the Islanders Gorton Fisherman, and we're so deep in the weeds at this point.
It is a good jersey. I like their Fisherman jersey. Their reverse retro Fisherman is a good jersey. I like it. Give me 8 versions of those, please.
I would rather do the opposite, because every time I put on an NBA game, Andrew, I have no idea who's playing ever. I have to look at the scoreboard. Why are teams that are blue and black wearing red?
Yeah, well,
who
like
made that decision?
That I agree with. That I'm on board with. If your colors are, let's say, like if you're on the Golden State Warriors, like yellow, right? Like that's the primary. That's the primary color. Don't go out there wearing purple and gold. Please don't do it. It's very annoying. Like for that particular thing, I agree with. Everything else, give me 9 jerseys. I don't care. I want cool designs. Give me those.
Okay, you gave me a good follow-up question, and even though we're over an hour, I got to ask because I'm a good journalist. Are you pro or anti wearing dark at home? Do you think home teams should wear white, or do you think they should wear the color?
Home teams should wear the colors. I like that. I like the home teams wearing blue or red or whatever color it is. I like it when if the home team has like some off color, the away team could also wear a different color that's like, that isn't close. That isn't particularly close. Like, let's say if one team is like bright red, for example, and let's say it's the Wings and the Senators. If the Wings are wearing their red jerseys that don't really have much of any black on it, and the Senators want to wear their black jerseys on the road, give me all of that. Otherwise,
more colors.
Yeah.
Okay,
I love the. I think the whites
that.
are just too plain a lot of the time. The colorful jerseys are usually the more intricate ones because you could do a lot more with them. I like a lot of that.
Okay. That'll do it for this week's episode of the Liberty Blue Podcast. Make sure you are subscribed wherever you get your podcast. We're on all the major platforms. Make sure you are subscribed on YouTube because you get to see the added value of during hockey season, when there are things to talk about, there will be numbers, there will be graphs, there will be charts, there will be added value. In the off season, it's really only if you want to see Andrew and I's pretty faces. But other than that, we're just here doing this.
We do have charts every now and again, so that's also good. That's also good to have.
All right, that'll do it for this week's show. It's supposed to be really nice. Go outside in the next few days. I know touching grass is the antithesis of a lot of this show, but go outside, touch some grass, immerse yourself in nature. We'll see you guys
Later.
next week.